My name is Imelda Maynard. I am a senior staff attorney with Catholic Charities of Southern New Mexico. Catholic Charities of Southern New Mexico is a nonprofit organization located in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and Roswell, New Mexico, and we service the 10 southern counties of New Mexico, West Texas, and then also provide legal services in Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. We help migrants basically try and get legal status in the United States in various different contexts. And so one of them is in asylum proceedings. So we've seen a drastic change in the processing of asylum claims since January of 2019 on account of new programs that are enacted by the Trump administration. So the most significant being the Migrant Protection Protocols, MPP, although we refer to it as Remain in Mexico, because there's nothing protective about the protocols. Essentially what it has amounted to are migrants are returned to Mexico to await further asylum proceedings while in Mexico. So Mexico, it essentially becomes the U.S. refugee camp. And the program has had a lot of, whether intended or unintended, consequences that have resulted in like the death of many migrants, kidnappings, extortions, robberies of migrants, many of the same reasons why people fled their home countries in like Central America. They're encountering the exact same problems in Mexico. And so within that context, the legal service providers like our organization on the ground try to represent asylum seekers as they like kind of navigate their way through the asylum system in the U.S. But it's proven quite difficult because of just differing, differing on the ground logistics problems. So for instance, some of our clients don't have access to telecommunications in Mexico, so they don't have access to a telephone. And for us to be able to prepare their asylum application, we have to physically drive to Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, to be able to help them with their asylum application, get their evidence, prep them for trial. That can be, it's quite difficult. One, because our office is located in Las Cruces, New Mexico, so it's about an hour drive one way to even go down to Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. But two, Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, if people will recall, for several years was considered one of the most dangerous cities in the whole world. And violence is upticking once more. And so our organization has had to enact safety protocols, as have other organizations who feel compelled by our mission, right, to uphold human dignity and to really help people who need it, to go into Mexico and help asylum seekers. But the problem is we put our own lives in danger and at risk, and finding spaces in Mexico to meet with people to talk about very traumatizing issues that have caused them to flee their country, that becomes difficult, right? Asking our clients to meet us at places we deem safe may put them at risk because they face problems in transit. So we've had clients tell us, I was robbed by my taxi cab driver. I was extorted by, on my way to like the grocery store, I encountered someone who basically told me like, hey, do you want to go sell drugs? And there's all these sorts of issues. And now we have also people saying, they're having problems with Mexican authorities, whether that's the federal police or immigration authorities in Mexico. So within this new program, we're seeing a slew of issues that are essentially causing people to give up their claims. Even though they have viable claims, they're deciding to go back home. But even that in and of itself is causing problems because it's not like they can just cleanly leave. They have to wait till they have court so that they can ask for permission to return to their home country so that they don't have a negative immigration record in the United States. But again, that can cause problems because their next hearing date may not be until months later. And so those are months that they have to find housing and shelter in Mexico. And Mexico right now is just not, the shelters are at capacity. Not everyone's going to find a place. So when you are a family unit, you have little kids, living on the streets is just not an option, especially right now that we're entering winter and it's getting really cold. So that's sort of what we're seeing, is just this taking apart of a system that was designed to protect the most vulnerable. We've turned it on its head with this kind of program, right, where we've willfully put the most vulnerable in dangerous situations that we know is dangerous for them. Like, we know that. But our government just doesn't seem to really care. And so that's sort of what's happening for now.
Do they have access to counsel? I mean, would you be able to tell your clients how to function in that environment?
So currently in MPP, access to counsel and PACER and HARP is a huge issue. Because essentially, like I said, in MPP, the problem becomes you're only going to have access to your client in the United States if they're brought before court. And initially in the rollout of the program, we were typically given at least an hour with our clients before their hearing. Now that time is no longer there. Sometimes the clients are brought in for a 1 o'clock hearing at 2 p.m. So we're not given any time to actually substantively meet with the clients in the United States. So that means our only means of being able to represent people in MPP is either they have access to a telephone or the internet in Mexico, and so we're able to communicate that way, or the organization is willing to send its attorneys into Mexico to be able to do in-person representation. Under HARP and PACER, those programs are so new right now. We've tried to get access to people. In those programs, people are at Border Patrol holding facilities. Traditionally, we do not have access to those facilities. We've asked Border Patrol if we could go in person and meet with people, and they flat out told us no. And so that one's even more disheartening, because there's no way then to meaningfully represent our clients if we can't even establish like a face-to-face interaction with them. So it seems to be, from a legal service perspective, things just keep getting worse, right? Like before MPP, we thought, oh my gosh, having to be detained in a detention center and like put forward your asylum claim while detained, we thought that was horrible. Like, how could something be more horrible? Well, MPP shows up and we're like, oh my God, you're in a different country. What can be more horrible than that? Well, PACER and HARP are actually more horrible, because now you're not even going to be given the chance to see a judge to put to actually make your claim. And so it just keeps getting worse and worse. And I think what's really hard is the human toll this is going to take, because we know as legal service provider, our government knows we're returning people to their deaths, like certain death. And so that's what we're seeing. And I think the American public needs to know, like, your tax dollars, my tax dollars, is all underwriting these programs, right? And like, we need to be outraged about this. We need to be outraged about this because it's our fellow man, right? And like, why should you care? Well, because it's a human being. We're talking about a human being, and what we allow to be done to others, it's only a matter of time before it can happen to us, right? It can happen to citizens. And so that's why it's so important to see that, like, there's just such an inhumanity to all of this, and it's by design. It's not, this isn't something that was an unintended consequence. It's totally by design. So that, I think it's really important to be aware of what's going on and what we're doing to, like, fellow humans. And in light of that, we're also seeing in El Paso specifically, it's a testing ground for like different pilot projects. And so we're seeing a pilot program in the form of what's called PACER and HARP, which right now I don't quite remember what those acronyms stand for, other than they're essentially expedited removal programs. It's a way to sort of tip a hat to due process, so that people think like, well, we're giving people a fair shot to tell us why they're fleeing their country, but they're really not. People are being processed, and almost immediately, within 24 to 48 hours, they're being asked to find an attorney to be prepped so that they can have a closed-door interview to explain why they're fleeing their country. And they have to prove that they are more likely than not, so a 51% chance that they will for sure be persecuted in their home country on account of one of 5 protected grounds. If you are coming from an indigenous rural population, right, and you're like scared out of your mind, you're fleeing because all of your family was killed, you're not in that mindset, right? You're not in this mindset of like, okay, I'm ready to sit down with a complete stranger and bare my heart to you. you're gonna be very guarded. You're not gonna know what's up, what's down. You're now placed in what to you is going to look like a prison facility. And you don't know what's going on, and to expect you within 24 to 48 hours to be able to tell someone like, you know what, I'm fleeing because my brother was killed, and I'm afraid the gang members, they're extorting me and want to kill me. To have to then put into context, well, why do you think that they're wanting to kill you, and that kind of thing. A person's not really thinking that way, right? It's incredibly ridiculous what we're putting people through, who are seeking safety, and so that's what we're seeing on the border.